The President. We'll continue with the second debate. Mr. Yip Kwok-him, Mr. Albert Chan, Chairman. Chairman, there are so few members in this chamber. That's really not appropriate. So 17-3, please.
我想提醒議員呢
I would like to remind members that this debate will come to an end at about 6 p.m. today. As I said last time, I will then give some time to members who have moved amendments to speak again. And so from now till 6 p.m., I'll give priority to those members who have not moved amendments and who haven't spoken yet. So please press the request to speak button if you wish to speak. Members need to know which officials will be attending the different sessions. Now, from now till 6 p.m., the Secretary for Development will be in attendance. And from 6 p.m. onwards, the Undersecretary for Home Affairs will be present. And then concerning which officials will attend our meetings next week, will be informed before the meeting. So, Mr. Kwok-him, Mr. James Tian haven't spoken in this debate yet, and so I'll invite Mr. Kwok-him to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. For their second debate, it involves 17 heads covering constitutional affairs, district administration, civic education, administration of justice and legal services, human rights, security, and public service. Altogether, there are 258 amendments being proposed. I've listened to the speech of many members. I think many of them have tried to take the opportunity to talk about something else. I do intend to express my views on each and every item because many of them are about cutting the salary of certain officials or cancelling the expenditure for a particular office. I think this is tantamount to shutting down the government, and then there will be no way that Hong Kong can be governed. I don't think I can support any of them, so I'm going to oppose all of them. But then in my speech, I would like to emphasize the following. That is, there is this proposal to cut expenditure for the police, including their equipment. I would like to express my views. Indeed, during the 79-day Occupy movement, the rule of law was eroded, and our economy was affected, and our daily lives have been affected. In fact, the majority of the citizens cannot accept this. The police have been doing their duty, and they have been upholding the orders of the court, and with the support of the public, the police cleared the occupied areas and returned the roads to the community. Many members in the opposition camp could not accept it, and through this appropriation bill, they seek to cut the resources available to the police by moving the amendments. Such requests are unreasonable, and their hatred, their anger have been unjustified. It is wrong to take it out on the police because the policemen are innocent in this regard. It shows that they are abusing their public powers. They are using the public powers for personal gains. In the past, we used to be very concerned about the frontline police officers, say whether they are protected, whether they're safe, whether their equipment is advanced, and whether they can rise up to the modern day needs. I can still recall that there was this police officer, Mr. Cheuk-yan. He is a victim of a particular tragedy. So we've been very worried about the safety and equipment of policemen on patrol. I remember that in 2012, we talked about the FSD trying to develop their asset management as well as maintenance. In this round, we have got members seeking to revise the expenditure available to the police and the FSD. Even such members in the past have asked for the government to assure us that frontline police officers will be safeguarded. Now, they don't care at all. They are against the idea of buying water cannon vehicles. So we'll just allow the frontline police officers to be taken on by the protesters without any protection. This is unthinkable. We have to understand that the purpose of acquiring the water cannon vehicles is as follows. When the crowd go out of control, we want to prevent hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of protesters charging on the police. Let's talk about the recent happenings. I think we've seen that sometimes things went out of control. Say the Mongkok police station was seized, and then some members of the mob, or when the protesters lost their self-control, they would hit the police vehicles. So we have seen such things happening. Therefore, when the protesters are storming at the police directly, we want to find a way to keep a safe and appropriate distance between the protesters and the police. Therefore, it is necessary to have the water cannon vehicles as a proper tool to control the crowd, and has often been seen elsewhere for the police to manage the scene. And this way, we can reduce the chance of suffering injuries, both on the part of the protesters as well as the police. And in fact, in the course of our debate of the appropriation bill, many members have surprised us. They have said that the water cannon vehicles can cause huge injuries. They have even said that when pressurized, the water can be so powerful and forceful that you can even do it for mining. And so personal injuries will be caused. And of course, we have heard on radio programs that some opponents have said that when you have the water cannons hitting the ground, rocks and stones will bounce back, and this will cause injuries. Well, of course, the police pistol will have an injuring power, and the baton would also do so. I think it all boils down to how it is being used and whether we can find a way to control members of the crowd who have become emotional and out of control. In this session, time and again, some members have queried the need for such equipment, and they seek to reduce the expenditure. I think they're just trying to settle the scores for what happened, and I think this is very ugly and shameful. Let's take a look around the world. In Belgium, Singapore, South Korea, etc., their police have also got similar vehicles, and the water cannon vehicles have been found to be effective in dispersing the crowd. In Europe, from time to time, you have read about unrest caused by the soccer fans. And in Belgium, almost on a monthly basis, they have to deploy the water cannon vehicles to control the crowd. And just last month, as a result of the sea tragedy, some protesters went to the residence of their president without approval, and the police there also used their water cannon vehicles to drive away the crowd. I don't intend to pass a judgment as to whether that has been done properly, but I just want to point out that when there is a large protest or public meeting, water cannon vehicles can help in using the water jet to drive away the protesters. I have often heard that pan-democrats would like to see Hong Kong following international standards in everything. But nowadays, in this case, they would rather abandon the international standards. They would say that the water cannon vehicles will be abused as a tool for suppression, and then their protests would be affected. So it is a matter of double standards. I'm sure for anybody listening in can certainly have their own judgment as to how such weapons will be used and how they will be controlled and regulated. Of course, the security panel need to have a discussion. And as the chair of the security panel of the LegCo, well, in fact, we have already notified members of the panel that in relation to the various equipments used by the police to control the crowd in large-scale activities, I think by having a discussion, our worries can be removed. And I'm sure that through such a debate, we can allow the citizens of Hong Kong understand that there are people trying to restrict the police unreasonably. Hong Kong has always been a safe city. We've enjoyed such a reputation. We have to count on the public at large to respect the rule of law. At the same time, we need a dedicated police force. We have to treasure their professionalism and dedication. Now, after the Occupy movement, it has been said that breaking the law is not the same as showing disrespect towards the rule of law. I think this is a wrong logic. It is affecting the young people of Hong Kong in a very negative way. I hope you will understand that this is wrong and we should respect our police force. Well, 2 days ago in Hong Kong, something happened. And in fact, it has drawn the attention of a lot of us. That is, we had a kidnap case recently. I think you heard about it in the media, and it is an organized crime. And we are worried that it means that we are seeing very serious criminals emerging. Of course, among the various amendments, there is a call to cut the fees to be paid to the whistleblowers. And I think we need the resources to make sure that we can spend on such a purpose and to safeguard personal safety. Thank you. Mr. James Tian. Mr. President, this is the second debate concerning the appropriation bill. This is about governance, constitutional development, and district administration. Let me talk about governance. I'd like to share with you my observations of the latest development. As Mr. Kwok-him has said, when it comes to governance, we should also talk about the work of the police force. During the Occupy movement, two things were noted. First of all, the manpower and equipment of the police and whether they were adequate. The second point is that if there is a shortage of manpower, and if such a movement drags on for too long, then it means that elsewhere in Hong Kong, I think Mr. Yip just referred to a recent kidnap case. Back then, we were told that between October and December last year, there was an increased level of smuggling activities. At the time, we were told that the crime rate went down. It was all because there were fewer policemen available to investigate into the cases. So it is impossible for us to expect the same level of manpower when there is something urgent and there is an emergency. In fact, we've only got 9,000 officers in any one shift, given that there are 3 shifts, and a lot of them have to be deployed to Mong Kok and Admiralty. Many members of the public have found that policemen were thinner on the ground, and then they had to patrol less frequently. So for the Liberal Party, in relation to the proposal to buy the water cannon vehicles, I think it's better to have it available so that we don't have to jump to tear gas from the police batons, because in this way it may be better. But of course, for water cannon vehicles, if the water pressure is at a very high level, even a vehicle, a bicycle, can be hit and they will fall.
But then they can always adjust the strength of the water jet. So in operating the water cannon, well, can they just adjust it so that it would just be enough to disperse the crowds? So we don't have a lot of experience in operating water cannons, but then in overseas countries, many do have such water cannons. And of course, we can see that, well, even for people several dozen meters away from the water cannon, they can still get sprayed and hit. But then if we are able to use it so that it can prevent people from raiding a particular or storming a particular cordon line, that might be good. So I think it's worth trying. That's why the Liberal Party supports this. But of course, we hope that when the police manage to procure the water cannon, they can operate it properly, and they should always apply the rule of de minimis, so that they would only apply the lowest level of force. Next, I'd like to turn to the issue of governance in relation to the budget. In fact, all along, our government has been saying that we'd like to have a small government and a big market, and the business sector likes it a lot, because the civil service system is acting as a middleman so that they would get the revenue from taxpayers, and then they would use it in turn to serve the community, in particular the disadvantaged groups, so that housing, medical care, and so on can be provided to those in need. This is good and necessary. But then, is that the most effective way of doing it? What about the governance structure? Is there any duplication in duties and so on? Very often, people wonder, what kind of governance do we have in Hong Kong? That's why I'd like to raise my concern here, because I've noticed that yesterday, well, the former Chief Executive Cheuk-yan at the former Chief Executive's office, he held a press conference, and of course the former Chief Executive's office, well, the expenditure is very small still, is funded by our budget. But then there is a very significant meaning to this, because as the former Chief Executive, and he held this press conference and he made remarks at the former Chief Executive's office, but then he at the same time was wearing another hat, which is a higher position. as he's the deputy chairman of the CPPCC. And then he held a press conference there to make certain remarks. So what is the impact on our governance? Yes, the spending incurred might be very small, and by 2030, 40, we will have quite a large number of former chief executives, and if every former chief executive is entitled to an office, then if all of these are funded by taxpayers' money, and if from time to time they would hold press conferences to meet the public, and as some have pointed out today, well, during the last 7 or 8 months, Mr. Cheuk-yan has already held 3 press conferences. So would that have some impact on our governance? Would it be more appropriate, like what is happening elsewhere, for example, for former presidents or prime ministers? Should they come out to criticize the existing government or to support the existing government? In particular, Hong Kong does not have party politics. Well, in overseas countries, well, the former president might criticize the incumbent government and the political party because of difference in party politics, but then we don't have such a similar structure. So our former chief executive is just a former chief executive, and of course, he was also criticized for the 85,000 units a year housing target. And then if every former chief executive, after they have stepped down, if they still continue to comment on certain things from the governance perspective, then for the incumbent team, well, of course, they would only criticize the incumbent team if they do not find certain things palatable. And during the past 4 occasions when Cheuk-yan spoke, he was commenting on some existing policies. But would that be a duplication of the existing structure? And also for the incumbent chief executive, that is Mr. C.Y. Leung, how come he doesn't come out to make those remarks himself? Fortunately, well, the former chief executive, Donald Tsang, did not do the same. Or else, what are we going to do with these remarks by different former chief executives? And also, as members of the CPPCC or the NPC, Hong Kong delegate, as they respect Hong Kong's situation, all right, the NPC is to enact legislation, and then CPPCC is to comment on politics. But then in Hong Kong, we do have due roles in enacting legislation and commenting politics. That's why the CCPCC or CPPCC and the NPC do not have offices in Hong Kong, and they are actually doing things via the liaison office. But then for the deputy chairman of the CPPCC trying to make certain remarks, through which channel would he be doing so? So is he going to do that wearing the head of the former chief executive and at his former chief executive's office? And if there isn't, then should the liaison office hold this press conference on behalf of the deputy chairman of the CPPCC? And if not, then for the former chief executive, who is also at the same time the deputy chairman of the CPPCC, so whether or not he is in support of the current policies or opposed to some existing policies, but then if he has comments to make, yes, the expenditure is not substantial, but then will there be positive or negative impact on Hong Kong's governance? I think the administration will have to come clean on this. In particular, we have 36 NPCA delegates, and also for the CPPCC's role in Hong Kong. What kind of role should they play? Well, this has nothing to do with the budget because they are not paid by the taxpayers, but then their remarks will have influence. They would also affect the governance by the Hong Kong SL government. That's why when it comes to the issue of governance, I think the issues are getting more complicated. There are many people trying to help with the constitutional reform package. They hope that the Pan-Democrats can support it. But then what kind of role have they adopted in speaking out? So that gives rise to some confusion, because with too many chefs in the kitchen, that might spoil the meal. So I'm worried. I hope that in terms of governance, we are not talking about a particular ranking of officials. I'm sure our bureau directors and top ministers will be able to deal with that. But then I'm referring to the top level, including EXCO members who are also paid by the taxpayers. But then in the course of governance, what kind of role are they playing? For example, recently, we had the TV incident, and the court rules that the EXCO will have to reconsider the case. So for EXCO members, 2 years ago when they made the decision, it had never been challenged and overturned by the court. So the EXCO is to assist the chief executive in coming to this conclusion. So these are all governance issues. Now that the court has ruled that procedurally they have not got it right, and therefore they will have to go back and give it a second thought. So many people are thinking that, well, are there any problems with our current governance? I think the administration will have to attach importance to that, because if the public think that there are problems with governance in Hong Kong, that would also affect the credibility of the administration. So is the government functioning properly? If there is no problem, then how come the court would overturn the decision by the CN Council? Of course, we don't know if there might be an appeal. But then, when we talk about a highly efficient government, we are talking about governance, and when you make decisions, they should not result in problems. But then if we had a spate of problems in the decisions, then people will be worried, and they would not trust the government. And if they do not trust the government, then as a result, as the Pan-Democrats say about the constitutional reform, all right, if they pocket it now, it will be for life. But then I'm saying that, all right, the administration, the central authority said that, well, there can be changes in the future because they are trying to adopt an orderly and a gradual and orderly progress. But then the Pan-Democrats are saying that the government should not be trusted. As I said, there have been many examples in which there are apparently some problems with the governance. That's why whatever the government says, they might not be in line with what they had earlier said. So in simple terms, they are not trustworthy. So I think in terms of this government and governance, the administration will have to think about it. And of course, from the budget's perspective, the funding would be given to the several areas that I referred to just now. But then overall speaking, the impact would be very serious. Ms. Claudia Mo, Head 144, Subhead 72. I'd like to refer to human rights, in particular for the ethnic minorities' political rights. This should have come under the CMAB, and now we've got the bureau head from the Development Bureau. All right, they're just going through the motions. At least in the hands of this council, there are some people who make these remarks. There are many people who cannot be bothered by the ethnic minorities' political rights. They are not concerned at all. They think that so long as you can go and see a doctor, so long as they can get CSSA and public housing is okay. Last year, in the middle of last year, Beijing published this white paper, and well, if you look at the content, from time to time they talk about compatriots and Chinese, the sons and daughters of China, and you're a member of the big family, and therefore we will have to sort to revive the Chinese nation and race, and you will have to contribute. And of course they ask people to be patriotic. But then, in all fairness, if you're an Indian, if you're a Pakistani, if you're a Philippine or Sri Lankan or even Nepalese, so for 2 or 3 generations you've been in Hong Kong. So they are just like you and me. They have a permanent right of abode and they have voting rights. And yet, what about their political rights? Their political rights have been totally deprived. So has the CMAB ever made any mention about this? No, never. And of course you'd say that, well, this is a document from Beijing, but then at least on the other way round, could you have done it better? So in the APIs, can you tell us how we can have an inclusive society with the ethnic minority groups? No, you have never said anything like that. And if you think that you are not one of us, and if you're not the descendants of the Chinese race, then there are many things that have nothing to do with you. So you'll not be part of many things. So we often talk about our blood descendants, but then you are blatantly discriminating them on racial basis, you are actually depriving those who are non-native Chinese, and their political rights have been taken away, including involvement and participation. You've made it clear that this has nothing to do with you, because you are not a member of the great Chinese race. How come the CMAB has made no mention about this at all? All right, you said that they are just puppets, and therefore it's very difficult to say anything about it. I can understand the difficulty. That's why I am asking you to put your shell. I'm asking you to do it the other way round, so that you can have some positive publicity. Can you have a bus parade? You don't have to come down. You don't have to get off from the bus, so that you can just chant a few slogans, so that the CMAB Bureau Director and other ministers can chant a few slogans. All right, Hong Kong claims to be the Asian capital, and we attach importance to both Chinese and English languages. At the same time, when we talk about political system, constitutional reforms, and so on, you talk about opinion polls, and you say that if the popularity rating is high, then you will have to support it. So it's very mechanic. So all you need to do is to press the button, and there are no principles, and there are no analysis whatsoever. So long as you just look at the opinion poll. What kind of opinion polls are they? They are only in Chinese. So for those who don't understand Chinese, for those who are not ethnic Chinese, well, when they receive this call, they would be asked in Chinese as to whether or not they can speak Chinese.
So what sort of opinion polls are these? Are they really credible? Do you know that in Hong Kong we have tens of thousands of Nepalese? They are non-ethnic. They are not Chinese from an ethnic point of view. So is it that the government only looks at your descent by blood? But do you know that in the recent earthquake, there were also Tibetan victims? Do you know that there are different races in the Chinese nation? Are there Tibetans in Hong Kong? Yes, I know one of them who is a media worker. So the CMAB produces many TV APIs. I think you should try to promote integration among different ethnic groups. All right, you dare not touch that area, but then do something positive here in Hong Kong. From 2012 to 2014, over $16 million have been used for the production of TV APIs. Of course, we can have APIs telling people to observe personal hygiene and to wash their hands often and to wash their hands thoroughly. Yes, these APIs have to do with public interest. This year, I believe some APIs will be produced by the GIS. So the GIS is only responsible for the production, but then the themes and concepts come from the different bureaus. But of course, I understand that for the Northeast Anti-Development, there are these APIs which have a political content. These APIs do not tell people that they have a choice. They simply ask people to listen to the government. The API means announcement of public interest, but you can see that for the current APIs, they are telling you, why are you not having or accepting this right to vote? So is it that in future, if the government wants to impose a curfew, then it will produce APIs telling people that you should like curfews. Curfews are good for you. Curfews should be supported. So if you go to the EOC, they will ask you to go to the HAB, and then if you go to the HAB, they will say this is a broadcasting issue. No one dares say that this is the right thing to do. $60 million. Make it happen. 2017, make it happen. Let me tell you that in 2017, what we are supposed to get cannot really offset what we may or what we lose or what we may lose. And now we even have Tong Chi-hwa coming out to express his support for the political reform package. So some may say it's good that Donald Tsang hasn't come out to speak on the political reforms. But then he dares not come forward because there are these ICAC investigations against him. And some say that some action will be taken against him before the summer. Previously, we had many graduates in journalism who were keen to join the GIS, but now the GIS has become the government's PR department. It has to help the government brainwash the public. Now, if graduates in journalism tell me that they will join the GIS, then I feel rather worried. Now, previously, we called the GIS and asked the GIS about the CS4A's itinerary, and they would say, "Let me try to do some research for you." But now, if you call the GIS, you can't get any answer. But the pro-establishment members, FTU members, for example, they know the itinerary of the CS4A. So there are these stages being set up. So either the GIS is kept in the dark, even the GIS is kept in the dark, or the GIS doesn't tell us what we want to know. Now, the GIS is not the CNN. It is not responsible for news reporting, but the GIS, I think, should try to make available to media workers and the public information about the government. Just now, James Tian made a speech, and I felt that it had little to do with the budget. But then the chairman didn't stop him. The chairman didn't mind, and so let me respond. How come Tong Chi-hwa has come out to speak on the political reform package? And of course, there is the former CE's office, and taxpayers have to pay for the expenses of the former CE's office. So this government is not credible, and so the government has to rely on other authority. But then is Mr. Tong really authoritative enough, or is he respectable enough in the eyes of Hong Kong people? Previously, there was an anti-Tong alliance, and it was a big alliance. Do you remember? And we are now making use of taxpayers' money to make the kitchen hotter and hotter. Now, many people think that they can come out and speak authoritatively. They think they are the chef. But do you know that the kitchen is getting hotter and hotter and there may be an explosion soon? But people come out and feel that they are masters, they are the top chef, and they speak in that manner. So I'm really pessimistic about the operation of the CMAB. I don't think there will be improvements, but I really hope that the GIS will do its job. Journalists, especially expatriate journalists who do not know Chinese and Cantonese, should be given as much information as possible. Please do not keep everything confidential. And if you can't issue press releases, at least give people the information over the phone when they call you. Ms. Helena Wong. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. I support the amendments moved by Wong Yok-man, Emily Lau, Albert Chan, K.K. Kwok, Chen Chi-chuen, and Gary Fan. I support their amendments to Head 21. They have moved amendments to cut the salary of the CE. I want to talk about this CE. If you want me to tell you why I think his salary should be cut, I can go on and on till midnight and beyond. In respect of our tertiary education, the CE abuses his power. He has threatened academic freedom. He has tried to interfere in the autonomy of our tertiary institutions. At the moment, there are 10 statutory tertiary institutions, including the 8 universities: Hong Kong U, CU, UST, Baptist U, Polytechnic U, City U, Lingnan University Open U, and Hong Kong IAD, and also HKAPA. They are governed and subject to the respective ordinances. But then there is one thing in common among them, and that is the CE is the ex officio chancellor of these institutions, and he enjoys very great supervisory powers. And I think his powers are a great threat to academic autonomy. This is really a problem with the law. And so Mr. Ip Kin Yuen and I myself, as the secretary of the PTU, would like to champion amendments to these ordinances. So let me now go back to why we think the CS or the CE rather should not be paid at all. I want to declare my interest first. I teach in one of the universities in Hong Kong. Many people are concerned about academic freedom and also the autonomy of our universities and tertiary institutions. The CE has great powers under the law, but we do not want him to use all his powers to the extreme. We do not want him to interfere in the operation of the universities. C.Y. Leung has made controversial appointments to many universities, and we are worried that C.Y. Leung is trying to turn the different councils into the C.Y. Leung fans clubs. So this is issue 643 of the PTU's newsletter. According to the law, the CE is the chancellor of the various universities, and he can appoint council members And the law also authorizes the CE to appoint the chairman and the deputy chairman of the council. And concerning the CU council, the chairman has to be appointed upon the nomination of the council. But then for the other 9, the CE can appoint anyone outside the universities to head the council. So CY Leung can have all the say in this respect. Different universities have different organizational structures. Concerning the number of council members that the CE can appoint, it really varies from university to university. And may I refer you again to issue 643 of the PTU newsletter. And you can see that for the CU, the CE can only appoint 6 council members, 11.5% of the total number of members. But then HKAPA, the CE can appoint 15 council members. And that is 83.3% of all members of the council. And as for the other universities, CY Leung can appoint 7 to 15 members, meaning 30% to 50 or even 60% of the total number of members. You may say that was the case in the colonial days. The governor was the chancellor of the universities. So how come we think this is a problem today? Chairman, the governors did not use their powers to the extreme, and the governors did not only appoint their fans. And look at, may I refer now to the Sunderland report commissioned by the UGC. This is a study on a review of tertiary education, and then it is said that there should be more outsiders to sit on the council.
So they take part as non-academic members so as to provide advice to the university. So they don't pledge allegiance to the government or the institution itself. However, nowadays most of the external members have been appointed by the CE. And for our CE, CY Leung, he has been appointing members in this way. And they have been challenged because a lot of them are his fans, his supporters. How many of them can really independently provide advice to the universities, or are they simply there to act on behalf of CY Leung so as to oversee the teaching staff as well as the students of the universities? Do they pledge allegiance to CY Leung, or will they and can they independently advise the universities? If not, will they be sort of discharging certain political tasks given to them by the Central People's Government? Mr. President, we can see that as far as the appointment to council is involved, I think it is only natural for us to suspect that CY Leung would regard this as a political reward for his supporters. Soon after assuming office in July 2012, in October 2012, Mr. Franklin Lam, a great supporter of CY Leung, was appointed to the council of Lingnan University. But of course, Mr. Lam has already resigned from the EXCO. What is even more shocking was that 3 deputy directors of his former electoral office, Ms. Gay Man-fong, Ms. Leung Suk-dak, and Mr. Lau Bing-cheng, were respectively appointed to the Council of Hong Kong U, Baptist U, and Polytechnic University. And in March this year, And notwithstanding objection from teaching staff and students, Martin Liu of the CPPCC was appointed to the to one of the councils, and the former Secretary for Education, Professor Arthur Lee, was also appointed to the Council of the Hong Kong U. It has been rumored that C.Y. Leung is making a move so as to have Arthur Lee on the council first, so that when Dr. Cheuk-yan is to resign from the chairmanship of the Council of Hong Kong U, Professor Arthur Lee will take over. Well, in fact, when Professor Arthur Lee was the secretary, he had caused a lot of problems. It was said that he tried to merge CU Hong Kong and Hong Kong STU. And in fact, he's not an appropriate person. I think all of them are acting as threats to our academic autonomy. For Arthur Lee, we have said that CE's salary should be cut. This is because Professor Arthur Lee has been appointed by C.Y. Leung to sit on the Council of the Hong Kong U. He was appointed in March, and soon after assuming office, Professor Arthur Lee took a high profile to criticize the professors of Hong Kong U, saying that they didn't attend to their core business, they took part in Occupy movement, they didn't focus on writing thesis, and they had caused a negative impact, causing the lowering of the ranking of the Hong Kong U. Well, the teaching staff of Hong Kong U were really infuriated. It was said that they would like to consider the possibility of taking Arthur Lee to court for defamation. Mr. President, you are also a graduate of Hong Kong U. Have you ever seen this happening? And what about the members appointed by the governor to the council? Have you ever seen such council members criticizing the Hong Kong U professors? I remember that there was Professor Sun at CU Hong Kong. Everybody had to take liberal studies, and you have to take this module. That is the idea of studying at a university. You need to know what's meant by being a student, being a teacher at a university. That is, you are supposed to be a member of the intelligentsia. And so taking part in public affairs and commenting on current affairs would only but rightly expected of a member of the intelligentsia. So how come that Professor Arthur Lee is criticizing professors who are taking part in the Occupy movement as not attending to their core business? Does it mean that this is the cause of the lowering of the ranking? Yesterday, there was this QS that has issued the ranking status of universities around the world. According to QS findings, it is the 5th time that we've got such a report, and they've relied on 4 major criteria, like the reputation within the academic circle, assessment by employers, and also the number of times that the thesis have been quoted, the citation frequency, and also the impact of such essays. And in fact, universities all around the world have been compared from faculty to faculty, and QS has gathered the views of 126,000 scholars and employers. And from this report, we can see for ourselves that the universities in Hong Kong have been performing quite well. First of all, for Hong Kong U, 10 disciplines have a place in the top 20 places, including the law school. And then for 4 other disciplines, in fact, they are included in the top 10 globally. So on what basis can Arthur Lee criticize the professors of Hong Kong Youth Law School for taking part in Occupy movement, and that we can blame the lowering of the ranking on them. So don't you think that Arthur Lee should apologize to the teachers and students of Hong Kong U and should resign from his membership on the Council of Hong Kong U? I don't know at the end of the day whether they will take Arthur Lee to court for defamation, but C.Y. Leung should also be punished in the form of cutting his salary for the whole year. Now, for C.Y. Leung's impact on our tertiary institutions, I think the list cannot be exhaustive. And then what about the selection of the of Professor Johannes Chen? C.Y. Leung hasn't clarified as to whether he has intervened in the appointment. And then for the honorary doctor degree holders, it has been said that C.Y. Leung has removed a few names from the recommended list. It shows that he has no respect for the autonomy at all. Mr. Chen, would you like to give a reply? Well, at this moment, I would like to invite members who have moved amendments to speak for the last time. Ms. Emily Lau. Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, this is the last time that I speak. I would like to talk about Head 000 and Head 142, and that's about removing half of the yearly salary of the CS, amounting to $19 million plus. This morning, the CS4A came here to attend our meeting, and we were really agitated. She came here to sell this proposal to us. Yes, she might as well do that, but still, we expect the CS4A to reflect accurately the wishes of the community in relation to universal suffrage. Surprisingly, she knows that the society is divided. She has asked us to put down our ideals and our democratic aspirations. She has asked us to bear in mind the overall well-being. And that means we should set aside our ideals, which we have pursued for many years. And she has asked us to support the latest political reform proposal. Of course, we are really angry. I think the democratic aspirations are commonly held by everybody in this community. Even your party has democratic in your party name. I cannot see how we can support a fake model. So the CS4A just doesn't know what she's talking about. What is more laughable is that she said that the Pan-Democrats would be happy to see the vetoing of the package so that there will be a regression. We are really angry. When have we said that we are happy to see that there won't be universal suffrage? I've often said that for universal suffrage, we've been fighting for it for decades. We are just one step away from it. We really want to have universal suffrage. And for the SAR government, it is duty-bound to reflect our views to the Beijing government, because so many of us are not able to go. For James Tian, and he has been very bold in reflecting the views, and yet he has been criticized. He has been sidelined. Now we are told that we should bear in mind the overall interest. Cheuk-yan came out yesterday, as James Tian has rightly said that we have got this former CE coming out, and it will be even worse if another former CE, Donald Tsang, is to come out as well. But of course, he got his own troubles, and he won't. Now, we have really been disappointed. maybe over a period of time, there has been some expectation from the community. But now that we've seen what he has done, we are really infuriated. Just now, during the radio program, I asked her whether she would like to withdraw her comment. She said that we are being very sort of harsh and we're being cruel in trying to veto the package. It is all because we haven't got true democracy. Now, for Article 26 of the Basic Law, I have said that I agree that the political reform package must be aligned with the Basic Law, but again, it should be in compliance with the IPPCR. Mention has been made about the right to elect and the right to be elected. How come the CS can ask us to support a reform package which also goes against the Basic Law? Why wouldn't she be more courageous and try to take up the matter with Beijing? Yesterday, Cheuk-yan was trying to threaten us. I'm not asking the CS to threaten Beijing, but at least she has to tell Beijing that should there be the failure to get through the reform, there will be dire consequences. I think we shouldn't be bad-mouthed. I don't think we should be threatened to say that we must support, and please don't accuse us of finding it good to veto the proposal. For what Mr. Cheuk-yan has said, a lot of people have said that it is counterproductive. Of course, today we are not here to have a debate on Cheuk-yan, but he has done enough harm to Hong Kong. Let me come back to the case of CS4A, Mrs. Carrie Lam. Donald Trump has said that Carrie Lam has been very capable, but I don't really think so. Probably we haven't got somebody else who's more capable.
She's responsible for MPF, poverty, and also population policy. So even for cleaning, Keep Hong Kong Clean campaign, she's also responsible. So I think we should all cry, given the sorry state of affairs that we are in. But then I think that as the chief secretary, she has the duty to do the proper thing. All right. She said that for the 27 votes, we'll see how many we can win over. But then the situation has not improved at all. I don't think you're going to get it done. So for the 27 votes, in fact, together with Dr. Leung Ka-lok, I don't think they're going to get enough votes. So you're making things really very bad. And of course, Wai Leung has to shoulder the biggest responsibility. But then I agree with what she said. There is one remark that she made. All right, we are just one step away from universal suffrage. That's why we are not saying that our biggest target is to veto this fake universal suffrage package. Of course, if it's fake, it should be vetoed. But then the biggest target, we've been fighting for it for several decades, and that's genuine universal suffrage. And universal suffrage is a promise given to us by the central authorities. It's also one step away. So, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, well, the public also have expectation on you, and they also have expectation on Mrs. Carrie Lam, because when compared to us, you guys can talk to those in power in Beijing, and you can explain things to them. All right. Well, Carrie Lam said that there was no trust whatsoever, but then whose fault is that? For so many years now. All right, Xi-chuen, Donald Tsang, and then Wai Leung. What have they done to improve this relationship? All right, you're putting the cart before the horse, and you said that there's no trust. That's why you're not allowed to have universal suffrage, because that would endanger national safety or national security. So why? And today we move this motion, and of course, if it can be passed, of course that would be very eye-catching. But then we'd like to give this warning to the Chief Secretary, because there are many people out there who are very outraged by her. All right, it's like the bus parade. You said that you would like to go to the district to talk to the people, but then if you don't even bother to get off from the bus, then how can you contact them? If you have so many fears, then why bother to go at all? So have you ever reflected on yourselves? How come there are so many people out there who would like to heckle you? Of course, I'm against violence. I'm against heckling. But then how come there has been such grievance in the community that many people would heckle you? All right, Chief Secretary, you are the number 2 woman in this government. That's why you have many responsibilities. And if things are not done properly, and if as a result the community is seriously torn, then Chief Secretary, you have the duty. But then what's most important is not this consultation document that let's make it happen. Well, this is really very ugly. Many people talked to me and they said that how come they got this very ugly slogan? I don't know how much money you have spent on this. Well, people say that you should not chant such slogans. You should not go to the district and put up such a show. You should try to talk to Beijing. I think definitely that's the most important part. Why? Because those who tie the knot must untie it. And of course, you would say that, all right, you are the solution. So long as you can vote in support of it, that will be the solution. I can tell you that no way. But then the SAR government, including the Chief Secretary herself, have the responsibility so that at this critical juncture, you have to report this to the central authorities in Beijing about the very perilous situation that Hong Kong is in. Yes, many people know that. But then I also trust that there are people who are trying to incite things because they would say that if we allow them to have genuine universal suffrage, people endangering national security will be elected. So these are lackeys. So if they are not even able to grasp the actual situation in Hong Kong, and if they do not have the guts to tell the central people's government about the real situation, and if there is dire consequence later, then Chief Secretary, do you think you can bear the responsibility? Chief Secretary, you have served this government for several decades, and we would all think that she definitely has a heart to serve Hong Kong. But then people think that things are getting uglier and uglier. So at this juncture, number 1, Chief Secretary, you will have to be frank and honest when people ask her, this election system, is that democratic? So can she be more honest and be fair? Well, she said that she would have to follow the Constitution. But then no one is asking you to violate the Constitution. But then following the Constitution, the package that you are proposing now is against public opinion. And she said that the August 31st decision is able to rally public opinion behind it. All right, you don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, Chairman, there are still a few weeks to go. And in Hong Kong, it's a critical period for Hong Kong's future. So at this time, we have to be cool-headed, we have to be calm, we have to be firm, and we have to have courage, and we also have to be frank and honest. We hope that Mrs. Carrie Lam, the Chief Secretary, will have the courage to serve Hong Kong people. In the past, not too long ago, many Hong Kong people admire her. But now, many Hong Kong people told me, well, the Chief Secretary has already overused her credibility. But then, she is in this post, she has the duty. In particular, she is responsible for Hong Kong's constitutional development, and the homework that she has handed in, many people think that it cannot get a pass score. That's why I've moved this amendment. I hope that the Chief Secretary would think hard and do some soul searching. She should do something good for Hong Kong, which is recognized by the public. And this is something that many people have been asking for. Raymond Chan, I'd like to call for a quorum count.
少唔俾佢講啊，唔俾啊，佢有咁，咁咪算啦，唔理佢。 我注意到有一位議員係未發過言嘅咧。
I noticed that one member has indicated that he would like to speak, and he hasn't spoken. But then, Mr. Christopher Cheuk, I've already said that I will not invite other members to speak. And now I will invite the members who have moved amendments to speak. So I'll follow the order. But then Mr. Albert Chan has already moved his amendment, so I will now invite Mr. Kwok-hung, Mr. Chi-chuen, Mr. Fong Yok-man, Mr. K.K. Kwong, Mr. Gary Fan, Mr. Kenneth Chen, Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan, Mr. James To, Mr. Albert Ho, and then finally Mr. Albert Chan to speak. Mr. Leung Kwok-hung, Chairman, how can that be? Only in totalitarian states do people always eulogize the police and the army. For example, in Nazi states, people keep talking about the ties of compatriots, and then that the army should be respected. Chairman, I believe you remember during the Cultural Revolution, it is said that there is one slogan which says we should all learn from the PLA. So if that was not militarism, what was it? Oh, in a democratic state, there is no ruling party which will say it is grateful to the state machinery. But of course, if you have to ask me to find an example in a democratic state, I may cite George Bush. He praised the army for going to Iraq. In fact, in a state, the police as well as the army are public servants. So in other words, Li Ka-shing will not openly praise how excellent the security team in Cheuk-yan is. He will only tell you how brilliant his subordinates are because they have made a lot of money for him and for his group. In totalitarian states, people are under close surveillance. In the Cultural Revolution, people were asked to learn from the PLA. I want to say that, so in fact that was Lin Biao, because sometimes people might join the wrong queue, so to speak. So for pro-establishment members, if they had lived in those days, they would have been imprisoned many times. How come in this chamber we have people eulogizing the police and the army? You're turning this chamber into a fascist temple. And look at C.Y. Leung's election platform. You all support him. Have you read this document? Where in this document did he say that he would strengthen the police force? Nothing is mentioned about the police force. C.Y. Leung is your master. He didn't say in his election platform that he was extremely grateful to the police, and the police's weapons and equipment must be strengthened. You know, Andy Zhang is only a subordinate of C.Y. Leung. He did not, in his election platform, keep praising the police. He didn't say that. So, can I ask you, where in this platform C.Y. Leung said that he was really very grateful to the police. So when you praise people, you have to know your master's line. So are you trying to say that in fact the PLA should have taught the police how to cope with a movement or an uprising or a color revolution? But C.Y. Leung didn't say anything about the police in his election platform. I understand that if a dog wants to please its master, it will bark as loudly as possible. This I can understand. Carrie Lam is really competent. She said that if Pan-Democrats voted down the political reform package, they were anti-democracy. But I dislike the pro-establishment members, but I really can't accept that logic. I am voting down this package not because I want less democracy. In fact, I want more democracy. That's the purpose. Li Fei said that the August 31 framework can be changed in the future. So Li Fei is trying to lure us into supporting the reform package, but then Carrie Lam is trying to tell us that it's already a great package. Chairman, some say that they are patriotic. We are not only speaking on behalf of the 7 million Hong Kong people, we are also speaking on behalf of the 1.3 billion Chinese. I cannot agree that the Chinese do not deserve democracy. And I don't think dog-like things should obstruct man's progress towards democracy. I think what is most important to men is not how much power we have today or how much money we have today. Men walk towards their ideals. They walk forward towards their goals and their dreams. And this is what distinguishes human beings from other animals. And in fact, this is not my invention. This is advocated by the Communist Party. You know, during the anti-Japanese war, they said that people's rights must be direct and extensive, but then for the right of election, then and concerning the organ representing the people, it may be a parliament, it may be the People's Assembly, and it must be elected by the people, or else these organs cannot claim that they represent public opinion, and the right of election must be thoroughly and fully exercised. And concerning unreasonable restrictions on these rights, if these rights or if people are deprived of these rights, that will not be acceptable. And so the right to election also includes the right to be elected. And so since there is a right to election, there is also the right to be elected. The two coexist.
If the right to be elected is to be restricted, then the right to vote will also be restricted. And then there is a further elaboration. In other words, say some people have been denied the right to vote, that means there is a restriction. That means that those who have the right to vote cannot be elected. Therefore, the right to vote will be restricted. Therefore, universal suffrage in its true sense means that the election is equal and universal, and then all people should enjoy the same right, and they should equally have the right to be elected. If we in advance restrict the qualification to be elected, or if the government is to name certain candidates, then even if the right to elect has not been restricted, then the people would merely be rendered into the tools in the election. So this year is the 71st anniversary of this speech. I've shown you this letter. I didn't invent it. It's from the mouthpiece of the CCP, Shanghua Rebao, and that's about the plight of the nationals. It's a pledge. It was a most solemn pledge. Mr. Chairman, we need to find our roots. For those who always talk about our motherland, have you ever considered that in the past the CCP relied on this so as to overthrow the one-party rule, one-party authoritarian rule of the KMT? Have you ever considered that the KMT has also used water cannons and police to suppress the university students? Have you read history? At that time, the CCP said that those who suppress students' movement would not have a good end. And there was something said by Mao Zedong. Now today, we are told about the purchase of water cannons. And in March 1928, it was said that female students should not be chopped or beaten up with a stick because that's too bloody, and then we should use a pistol, and then we should use water cannon. That's what happened during June 4th. Just one bullet, no groaning, no moaning, and then it shouldn't be photographed. Would you like to buy those sorts of bullets used in the June 4th? Go out and buy such bullets. Mr. Chairman, I've grown tired of such debates. It has never occurred to me that for somebody taking up such a post as Carrie Lam in the face of the international media would say that for some political parties to boycott this sort of political reform is taking away the democratic right of the electorate to vote. I've never considered such words coming out from her. And I've already forgotten the language and logic of the Cultural Revolution, which used to be like a nightmare. And somehow today, in this 21st century, we have got a modern society here, and we have got somebody who used to serve the colonial government now. She is drawing a salary from the new government, and she is saying this. When she was with Hong Kong U, I think twice she cried over the difficulties of the people while taking part in student movement. She isn't just insulting me. It doesn't matter if she's insulting me. In fact, she's insulting everybody who is fighting for democracy in China, including 22 who are still being detained for supporting the umbrella movement, including dozens of them who would rather be beaten up by the police and yet keep on with their fight. I think we should reserve some dignity for ourselves. We should also adhere to our principles. Even if you work for your masters, I don't think you should wrong the others. Last time, I talked about hundreds of ghosts roaming the street. Well, in fact, in the Qing dynasty, an emperor compiled a record of the wrong deeds of 100 officials. The record was shown to the officials and then it was burned, threatening them that they will be exposed if they continue. Now, for the pro-establishment camp, we see that we have got so many ghosts roaming around, and we will keep a record of those who are the ugliest. I'm sure the people have my confidence. Mr. Raymond Chen, I would like to ask for a quorum count.
陳志全議員，請你發言。
Mr. Raymond Chan. Mr. Chairman, this part is part A with amendments, and according to you, that's the second part of the debate, and that covers 17 heads, 258 amendments, 11 members are moving amendments. Well, for members who have spoken on this, there are already more than 20. I haven't really counted the number. I don't know if there were some 30, and you accepted that my over 80 amendments. And according to the experience last year, this part was 280 amendments, so there was slightly higher number of amendments, and you allowed some 46 hours for the debate. But then according to your original plan, only 27 hours would be given. But then you said that during the last debate, it was somewhat longer than expected. That's why for this part, you will have to cut it back by 2 hours. So there would only be 25 hours available. I don't know what's the logic behind this. How come last session can be longer, and why not this session? Why do we have to cut it back by 2 hours? And for the actual situation, and if you look at the number of amendments and also the number of members speaking and also the room for debate by members, they is far from adequate. Well, for the amendments that I've moved, which have been accepted by you, and for amendments that I haven't spoken on, that is about the slashing of the whole year's pay for the chief executive, and also the whole year's pay for the chief executive, and also the whole year's pay for the financial secretary, and also the CP's annual pay. And then for the relevant departments, I've only highlighted the fire services department and also the CNE department for criticism, and also the bureau director for the CMAB and the undersecretary of the CMAB. So I don't know, with the 10 odd minutes given to me, how I can compress everything into a succinct speech. I can only comment on the proportionality issue. All right, Chairman, you allow me to move some 80 plus amendments. You should have given me enough time to elaborate on them. And your logic is almost like what you did with slashing some 1,600 pairs of amendments moved by Kwok-hung. You said that according to past experience at the committee stage, there was no debate whatsoever. And of course, there wasn't, because you applied the guillotine. You cut short the time. So how can members speak? And then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Next year, you would say that Raymond Chan, for the amendments that you have moved, many of them have not been debated at the committee stage. That's why you'd say that it's all frivolous and it's meaningless, because you've cut short the time. That's why I support Mr. Kwok-hung. He said that whatever it takes, he would take you to court by instituting a judicial review, because you have slashed the 1,600 plus pairs of amendments, and you used your own logic. And today you also said that according to past experience, he did not debate it in the committee stage. That's why it's frivolous, it's not meaningful, because you did not allow time for the debate, because you've tailored your own division of sessions, and you never explained to the public how come during the last session you did not allow, you allowed for longer time, and this time even Christopher Cheuk-yan would like to speak, and then and yet you did not allow him. And also, last year you allowed 46 hours, and now you're trying to compress it, because originally you planned for 27 hours, because I like to argue for 2 more hours, and now you're cutting it back so that there is only 25 hours. Well, Raymond Chan, you've already spent 4 hours on what you were proposing to do during this session, because for the 7 bureaus, I won't even have enough time to read out all the 7 bureaus, and you're just giving me the time to just highlight 1 or 2. This is the 10th time that you're speaking, because I have over 80 amendments, and if you, for the 100 or so minutes that you're going to speak, if you can organize it better, then you would be able to make better use of your time. So I will have to spend 1 to 1.5 times on every amendment, and you said that on average you can only speak for 100 or so minutes, and therefore you can only move some 10-20 amendments. So you are actually tightening the rule year after year. All right, I've chosen head 144 to slash the Bureau Director of the CMAB's annual remuneration involving $3.58 million. So that's Raymond Tam's annual salary, $3.58 million. And also the Under Secretary's remuneration, that's Mr. Lau Kong-wah, his annual remuneration amounting to $2.33 million. Originally, to discuss why we should cut Raymond Tam's pay, I have to look at 3 parts, including constitutional development, basic law education, as well as human rights issues. And of course, there isn't enough time. That's why I can only focus on program area 4, individual rights. In particular, in promoting people with different sexual orientation and sexual recognition, and also equal opportunities for people with different sexual orientation. Yes, I've not slashed the funding for this program, but then what I'd like to say is Raymond Tam, the Bureau Director, under this program area, has been very negligent. It's not just negligent. He is a complete failure, because 2 years ago, the government invited Priscilla Leung, James To, and myself, together with some scholars and also business sector representatives, sexual minority groups, and also religious groups, and they've set up this consultation or advisory group on eliminating sexual discrimination, because in 2013, with regard to para 131 of the policy address, C.Y. Leung said that he would not be conducting the consultation, but then he had to respond to this issue. That is about the consultation on sex discrimination ordinance, and that's why we were invited to join this advisory group, hoping that we would be able to provide a feedback to the advisory group as to the situation in Hong Kong concerning discrimination against sexual minority groups. We had some doubts as to whether or not we should join, because by joining, we might just be doing some window dressing. So it's just a window dressing, allowing them to drag their feet for another 2 years, and then after 2 years, it just elapsed. Nothing has come about, and C.Y. Leung will be close to the end of his term, so he would be able to get off the hook. And there was also a forum which was set up in 2014 of sexual minority groups, and then different groups and government departments were invited to express their views. But then it's even worse. So the number of meetings every year would become fewer and fewer. Originally, they had a quarterly meeting, and now there was only annual meeting. And then by 2010, there wasn't any meeting at all. That's why the sexual minority groups were very unhappy about this. That's why they just withdrew from the group, and they boycotted the forum. And then the administration had a hard time, because they had to be accountable to the UN as well as the human rights groups. That's why in 2013 they set up another group, and that's the advisory group on eliminating sexual discrimination. At the time, our mindset was should we pocket it first, because without the anti-discrimination legislation, should we just join it so that we would be able to at least promote it? But then by joining it, we knew very well that the so-called research study and also the consultation with some groups and so on, well, this is just a tactic. This is just a delaying tactic. But then we agreed that we should join, and then after a year, if there is no achievement, then we would take the lead by withdrawing from the advisory group. All right, 2 years have passed. All right, our term will expire in June this year. Nothing has been done at all. All right, the administration has asked us to extend our term by a few months until the end of this year, because the work report hasn't started yet. They haven't even started to write the report. Mr. Chairman, according to my question put to the administration, question number CMAB005 on the spending on eliminating sexual discrimination. All right, last year they spent $3.79 million, and this year it's only $2.63 million. And then after deducting staff emolument, they would only have about $1.6 million.
How come this amount of funding has been shrinking? I think Raymond Tam owes us an explanation. Is it that the Bureau thinks that this area of work is no longer important, or is it that the Bureau thinks that its work is very successful? Do you know, last year there was an API produced, and so the API was broadcast, and there was some publicity work. So last year that the group was newly set up, and so the Bureau had to tell the UN that a group had been set up and an API had been produced. You know, some Taiwanese say that they really envy Hong Kong because our government is very good and has produced an API telling people that the interests of sexual minorities should be respected. But in fact, if you mute the volume, you don't know what that API is trying to say. You just see people having meals, playing board games. Now, in fact, the government doesn't attach enough importance to this area of work. There is only a group in the Bureau on the funding scheme for equal opportunities, but then the staff establishment has not been increased. There is only an EO1 and also an EO2. So government is virtually telling you that you can take it or leave it. These are all the resources that we are willing to devote to this cause. Over a decade ago, the Code of Practice was published, and the Code of Practice merely contained recommendations on practices in the workplace for non-discrimination against sexual minorities. But these provisions are not binding. I once asked the government how many organizations had adopted the code this year. The number given was 140. I asked what would happen if organizations breached the code, and according to the government, the code was not binding, and in fact, no complaint had been received. And of course, if organizations or people breach the code, there are no sanctions because the code is not law. No penalties, no warnings. So only about 140 organizations have adopted the code after over a decade. The government says that it wants to encourage employers to adopt the code. But last year there was a school in Sha Tin requiring teaching staff and other staff to observe the moral requirements of the school, or they would be dismissed. That they had to sign letters of agreement. So the school authorities, in fact, refused to adopt the code, and there was nothing that the government could do. The code was not law. It is said that there is a hotline to receive complaints on this area. Last year, there were only 2 calls, according to the government. And in fact, the 2 calls had nothing to do with acts of discrimination against sexual minorities. The 2 persons called the hotline because they had some views on the API. So the government is going to continue in this manner. The government will just do as little as possible, and then it can say that to the UN, to electoral members, to the public, that it has already done something. So why do we need this bureau? Do we need it anymore? You haven't brought about improvements to human rights. You haven't done anything good concerning our constitutional development. Lau Kong-wah at the UN hearing spoke in a very bureaucratic manner, and the UN committee members asked Lau Kong-wah how the government could help those being discriminated against without legislation. What the government is doing is just to require government departments to not to discriminate against sexual minorities. But what about non-government organizations? What about the private sector? The CMAB, in fact, scores 0. It hasn't done its work at all. And so I think the salary of the secretary and the undersecretary should be slashed. Mr. Kenneth Chan. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. The Secretary for Development is in attendance. He is not going to respond. I don't think he has made any preparation for this meeting. Chairman, you said last time that in fact the officials did communicate with each other. But I think the secretary would just sit here till the time that he can be released, and that another official will come to take his place. In fact, we are trying very hard to have a high-quality debate. But no matter how hard we try, we won't be able to promote the relationship between the executive and the legislature. Power corrupts. The fear that one may lose one's power also corrupts. I think a good governance culture is a good cure to bad practices associated with the fear of losing one's power. Now, the person sitting opposite to me and many others embrace the dictatorial leadership of C.Y. Leung and the Communist Party. They want Hong Kong people to accept a CE election which doesn't give Hong Kong people real choices. This morning, Mrs. Carrie Lam said in an open meeting that the democratic members should put aside their democratic ideals. So has she, being the CS4A, put aside her ideals and her dignity? We have the CS4A asking Hong Kong people and democratic members to put aside their ideals and accept a fake package of democracy. So, in fact, she is telling us that we should give up our dignity as human beings. These high-ranking officials earn millions of dollars a year. They enjoy lots of benefits, but in fact, they are arrogant. They're trying to pull wool over the public's eyes. They're saying, join us, come to our side, put aside your ideals, and be part of the establishment. So I think you are like people, those the various criminals who deceive Hong Kong people, scams. we as LegCo members need to point out the true nature of the package. These are our duties as members from the opposition party. You try to deceive Hong Kong people. Hong Kong people refuse to be deceived, and as a result, you act like robbers, and you try to force the package on Hong Kong people. You're saying that if you miss the chance, you may never get another chance, so you're trying to resort to scaremongering. No one knows when we'll get another chance. That was said by C.Y. Leung. But then we know the truth. If we want the five-step process to be re-triggered, we have to vote down the present package, and we have to make sure that C.Y. Leung will not be re-elected. And he and his ruling team must disappear altogether. They are the ones who obstruct democracy and democratic development in Hong Kong. And if we can remove them, eliminate them, then we can, with our ideals, with our hopes and commitment, continue to fight for true democracy for Hong Kong. The former CE, Ms. Tong Chi-hwa, appeared in public again. And again, he put the blame on those who fought for democracy. He said that he was making the remarks of good intentions. He said that in the U.S., in many other countries, democratic development took 100 or even hundreds of years to evolve. Now, my reply to what he has said is simple. In fact, the powerful and the rich in Hong Kong sent their family members to democratic countries long ago. Their second generation, in fact, are enjoying the fruits of democracy in Europe, in the UK, in Australia, and these people are telling us that we should accept this package. Is it that we should rely on Mr. Tong, C.Y. Leung, and people like you to fight for democracy for Hong Kong and for China? If we can only rely on you to do that, then I think we'll have to wait for at least 10 more centuries. Concerning the voting rights of women and also the rights of racial minorities in the U.S., those rights were secured by struggles and fights. But then we are told that we should just sit with folded arms and accept whatever is bestowed on us. So you are telling us that we should no longer act like human beings. So if you want to be accepted by the Communist Party, you will have to change your ways of thinking. You have to purify yourself, so to speak. So I think that we have to become lackeys in order to join the establishment. And Chairman, forgive me for saying this. And Mr. Kwok-hung, can you please turn your phone to a silent mode? And in fact, the officials were putting on shows when they visit the various districts. And in fact, do you know that they were trying to gather or secure more support for your party. We saw young people with broad smiles. They were in your party T-shirts, and they would, I am sure, take part in the upcoming district council elections. And government officials were carrying out electioneering activities jointly with members of your party. So do you think Hong Kong people do not know what is happening? So are people now still playing by the rules of the game? Do we still treasure and observe moral standards nowadays? Do we need to be ashamed of what we do? In fact, power is everything. This is the philosophy in the mainland, and so in Hong Kong we're getting nearer and nearer to China in many ways.
Please do not belittle the people of Hong Kong. We still have people who are holding fast to their ideals, and today we do have a lot of people who want to become another Li Ka-shing or C.Y. Leung or Cheuk-yan or Pei-chun. But in fact, most of the time we hear people talking about, I want true universal suffrage. And they want to embrace freedom despite the bad weather. I think this is the true spirit of the Lion Rock in Hong Kong. Lately, and we are grateful to James Tian for going to the liaison office. I don't know whether he has been summoned or he back for audience. He said that the liaison officer would like to, the director of the liaison office asked them to help, and they were asked to go to the districts to help. Yesterday, I cited Article 22. The basic law has made it clear that the officials from the liaison office and other ministries from PRC should not interfere with the local affairs of Hong Kong. So is the Hong Kong government sitting idle and do nothing? I think this is the CGO, the Central Government Officers. Maybe it may as well be called the Central Liaison Office. So the Liaison Office will be making the decision. The Western District will become more powerful than the Central District. Now everybody's trying to show off their ties with the Western District. They become members of a brotherhood. So you're forming them yourselves into a clique. So whatever elections we're going to have, when we are in the worst times, then we have to appeal to the people of Hong Kong. Stand up and stand firm, and we must resist the pressure. If our civic society is destroyed, and if the voice of objection is suppressed, then Hong Kong doesn't have to wait until 2047. Come tomorrow, and overnight will become one country, one system, because blatantly they are intervening with the domestic affairs of Hong Kong. They are suppressing our freedoms. They are taking away our dignity. Don't be cheated. We must continue to speak the truth. We have to live as a true Hong Konger. Mr. Chairman, within this session, I talked a lot about the problems of having water cannon vehicles. Strangely, both yesterday and today, a number of DAB members defended the government in relation to water cannon vehicles using more or less the same details. I think we got it yesterday. I think Mr. Kwok-him, chair of the security panel, I think he should be ashamed of himself. And he has only got 4 pages. And only 2 paragraphs are relevant to this question. I think the same words have been used. So your researchers have been very incapable, because you're all relying on the same information to prepare your speech. I think we want to improve the relationship between the public and the police. That's what we should focus on, instead of thinking about which weapon is better. Pei-chun, tear gas, water cannon vehicles. I think you should do some soul searching. Well, Pan-Democrats did ask for a subcommittee under the security panel to consider ways to improve public-police relationship, and yet you voted it down. We have identified the problem, would like to be more focused in our work, and yet you would rather embrace the weapons. You would rather have an arms race, and this is the true character of the dictatorship. So that's what a shameless dictatorship would do to suppress our fight for freedom. And you put up a face of cruelty. Despite Carrie Lam's kind words, I don't think she can really disguise the true nature of your dictatorship. She's merely a spin doctor, but I don't think she can really disguise and hide away the true face of your cruelty. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan, we are here to talk about the appropriation bill. The budget is most important for the society of Hong Kong because we are talking about our revenue and our expenditure, and yet it seems that the debate is just like we talking on our own. It is said that we become very sort of excited, but I don't think so. We are really infuriated. Well, yesterday we talked about whether officials will give a reply. Well, they have spoken with their acts, that is, they refuse to give an answer. I think they have gone against their duties. Well, everybody has been trying to use the basic law to rebut our views. Now, the basic law has said that the government should send public officers to attend our meetings and to speak on behalf of the government. Now, in fact, in the budget exercise, the government has been trying to bypass the Finance Committee in relation to our questions. Lots of the proposals have been presented to the FC directly. You did so. We tried to ask a lot of questions, and you bypassed the questions. We're supposed to have the opportunity to ask questions during the FC meetings. You tried to bypass the FC. Therefore, in the past few days, we've tried to ask questions, but the government would choose to remain silent and refuse to answer. I have to censure the government for failing to be accountable to us and for dodging all the questions that we have asked in the past few days. Just now, we talk about the proposal to cut the pay, and there are also very specific questions concerning the water cannon vehicles, and yet the Security Bureau will not come here to answer our questions. We have asked as to whether the water cannons will be so powerful that it is like having a car crash. Will it harm us? Will there be bodily injuries? No questions, no answers. Why should we buy them? Is it because Hong Kong is at a high level of risk, and so there is a time bomb that's waiting to be detonated? No, we haven't got any answers. We have already got the tear gas, the police batons, the pepper spray, etc. Why do we still need the water cannons? No answers. And then the former Secretary for Security said that, no, it isn't anything but making you wet. So you say that you will only make us wet, but how strong is the pressure? How strong is the force? Please give us the data. We can imagine that had it been discussed at our FC meeting, then this can be discussed. But then the security panel meeting yielded nothing because the government can assume that the proposal will be approved. Now, the government is being complacent. I think the pro-establishment camp is to be blamed because the government can safely assume that the pro-establishment camp will vote for the government. It won't be derailed. But of course, the people's right to know has been affected. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, for the debate itself, I've been very disappointed. I find it regrettable to see such a response from the government. Mr. Raymond Chen, I would like to ask for a quorum count.
Li-chuen議員
Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan, Chairman, what I wanted to say is that the government has deprived us of the right to stand for election and the right to nominate, and also deprived us of the FC's right to scrutinize the funding proposals. And there is also one other thing which not many people know about, is that in our rules of procedure, 69.3, which says that any member can move to propose reduce a subhead of a certain head, and the format is as follows: reduction of subhead or subhead by so much, and then by reducing the subhead, we can reduce the head. There are wordings like heads, the subheads, and items in the English version. Chairman, you know I have moved 25 amendments. In fact, the Labour Party, we are just trying to reduce the items which have been taken out of the FC's agenda and put in the appropriation bill. And what I wanted to do is to reduce the subhead. For example, the Museum of History, the commitment of $400 million, and that goes under the subhead. And if we reduce the commitment for that subhead, that means in the next several years there will be no spending on that subhead. Well, it's not that I don't want the money to be spent. It's just that I want it to be taken back to the FC for scrutiny. Now, the question is, when I move this amendment, I find that the government has done away with the word subhead. Then I told the Secretariat, and I said that according to the rules of procedure 69.3, I wanted to reduce subhead or the item. But then the government said that there is no word like that. Now, in the appropriation bill, there are heads, subheads, and items. But in the overall classification, there is nothing. There is no item as subhead. So what we ended up is that I have to reduce the expenditure of that head, and I can't reduce the amount for the subhead. This is very technical. I hope that you understand. And Chairman, I will continue to follow up. Now, how come that there is a difference between the English and Chinese words there? And secondly, in the past we could take away the subhead, but now we can't do it. So the government has deleted the word subhead in the appropriation bill. So I wanted to raise this because there is this problem with our amendments, and this has to be resolved. Now, Chairman, there has been an item which has been discussed in the past few days, and that has to do with the expenditure on constitutional reform. The Pan-Democrats discussed Kennedy Town, flash mobs. Appearing for a short while, and they are just waving from the upper level of the bus. And they have a publicity estimate, and we want to reduce it because they are publicizing a fake universal proposal package. They are calling a stack a horse here. And C.Y. Leung told us that this is the true or genuine universal suffrage proposal, and his lackeys are calling this a stag, a horse, and everybody toes that line, and we are seeing history repeating itself here. But what's most problematic is that, well, it's all right if you just call it a stag, a horse yourself, but then you are publicizing it among all Hong Kong people. And we can also do our campaign, but then the government has API, free TV time slots for them. But then for us, Chairman, if we want to take out radio or TV advertisements, we can't do that because these are political advertisements. And the government can call the shots. They can advertise the fake universal suffrage proposal. But for us, on our side, we don't have that right. And we are banned from taking advertisements on TV or radio stations. So in terms of information or publicizing our message, it is very unfair because we can't be like the government that we can take out advertisements, and the government can continue to cheat people or deceive people. So I think we must reduce this publicity expenditure just to make the two sides more balanced. We end up in a fair way of doing things. Now, we want to reduce also the salary of government officials, this politically appointed team. What have they done for us? Well, in particular, in the constitution reform package, they set up this subcommittee, and Carrie Lam was here, again, repeating all the lies she has told before. She was still trying to deceive Hong Kong people. And then I raised that the government has taken us our right to stand for election. And Rin Chi-chuen responded, said that, well, there are two different things, and they are in Article 26 and 2045, respectively, and the ICCPR is also applicable to Hong Kong people.
And under the ICCPR, Article 25 provides that the right to make nominations should not be subject to unreasonable restriction. So what the government is doing, what they are advertising and selling, is in breach of certain provisions of the Basic Law. But they're not citing these provisions. They're merely saying that civil nomination will be against the Basic Law, but I can't see how this is against the Basic Law. The nominating committee can make the nomination on the basis of civil nomination. They are saying that civil nomination is in breach of the Basic Law. On the contrary, they are acting in contravention of the Basic Law. I think Rin Chi-chuen is committing a dereliction of duty. He doesn't offer any explanation, proper explanation of the Basic Law. We can do without the SJ. There is the DPP looking at the criminal matters, and the SJ is parroting the Beijing line. So why do we need the SJ there? Why do we need the CMAB if what they are doing is merely selling a fake universal suffrage package? So we are speaking to ourselves. They are not responding in any way. The other thing is the role of the police. Today, it is time for us to say goodbye to Andy Tsang, but he has made a mess of the whole police. He has ruined the relationship between the police and the public. The relationship has never been so bad. The trust has hit rock bottom. One glaring example is the beating up of a protester in a dark corner. Why is it that the 7 policemen are never prosecuted? Andy Tsang comes up with the warped argument by saying that we're not renewing the bail, and we were set free, and he said that we can be rearrested. And he, during the identification parade, he did not show the faces of the policemen. So my question is, can we hide the faces of those in the identity parade? Why do we still need the identity parade? During the identity parade, these people are assisting the identification process. I don't know how the police investigate the crime. I find that episode wholly ridiculous. From now on, when during the identification parade, can we twist the facial features, or can we allow the people to hang their head down, and how can the police conduct the investigation? If they ruin the entire procedures, they are not standing up for the procedures of Hong Kong. And he is favoring his colleagues. It was plain now for everybody that the police did beat up someone, and there was a TVB reporter who was beaten up, and they said that there is no evidence. This commissioner is going, and I think we will be aggrieved if his pay is not reduced. Mr. Albert Chan, I moved 66 amendments that run to 70 pages, and I've used less than 1/10 of the information. I've spoken 6 times. I didn't hog the floor to speak because I would like to let other members speak first. I agree with Mr. Ray Chen that in terms of arrangement, and the President has deprived members of the fundamental right to speak, and we're not able to monitor the government spending effectively. If Mr. Chen seeks a judicial review, the people power will be behind him. President members talked about the constitutional reform. I won't get bogged down on this issue. I remember in my first year, when I studied social work, there was a book entitled Blaming the Victim. There are people with power and influence who are blaming the victims themselves. The problems lie with the victims. If you encounter problems, if you cannot handle your problems, if you have domestic problems, it is your own problems. It was true of Cheuk-yan. It is true of Carrie Lam. When I see Carrie Lam's face, I feel very strongly that power corrupts holds true. Longhair has already commented on this. I don't propose to repeat them. And I feel utterly disappointed with Carrie Lam. I don't have a very high expectation of people. I do pin some modest hope on Carrie Lam, but in this constitutional reform exercise, all the hope has gone out of the window. President, I'd like to spend these 10-odd minutes talking about certain things that other members haven't quite talked about, the CPU, the information coordinator, and so on. And many members have already spoken on them. I go along with a lot of these comments. There are 3 aspects that I'd like to highlight. The first one is 233 000 Head 92 to cut $89 million. That's equivalent to the personal development for the legal policy division of the DOJ. I highlighted this area because a lot of the initiatives are routine exercises. If you look at the actual work area, we can actually do without them. It would be better to be without them than to be with them. In the coming year, like the basic law, and also to offer legal advice regarding Hong Kong, I think basically the implementation of basic law and the new constitutional order, did they ever offer any advice? I'm not sure what DOJ has done. Everything is run by the liaison office. Everything is run by the legal experts from Beijing. The legal officers in Hong Kong don't have a say. They may have done a lot of things, but all these came to naught because when it comes to the new constitutional order, everything is decided by the mainland scholars, and they will have the final say. So I think it is a waste of time. There are 45 government lawyers, 8 executives, 47 officers there. It is a big team there. So I think they haven't done anything at all. I think it is worth asking the Director of Audit to have a look at this. The other thing is to offer advice regarding human rights, like anti-discrimination and the attending the hearings on UN conventions. It is a bit of a joke. Human rights have been deteriorating over the years. The 7 policemen have beaten up a protest, and nothing seems to have been done about it. Here, to offer timely advice on human rights, and this is very much a joke. They haven't done anything over the years. How can we trust that they're going to do anything going forward? So the spending there has to be taken away. Offering advice regarding the basic law, to build up specific knowledge. I think Mr. Dennis Kwok might wish to have a look at this. He is the true expert. I'm a layman myself, but I've been reading on this document. I come to realize how absurd and how preposterous the situation is. So I'd like to take this opportunity to highlight this. The other thing is planning and lands, with which I'm more familiar. We have the relevant secretary here. Now, this is Head 92 to cut $2.19 billion, equivalent to the civil legal officer to do with planning, lands, and housing, and that's to take away the emolument for the whole year. This has to do with 92, the slashing of $1.7 billion, also to do with planning and lands, the litigation expenses. The reason why I bring this up is because if you look at the land resumption, it is unfair, unjust, and it is disproportionate. The government invokes the power to resume the land, and the residents don't have any power to fight against it. Never did the government lose any resumption exercise because the power offered or conferred upon the government is more like a vampire. Over the past decade, I said that in Australia, in Canada, the local government does have the legislation for arbitration and conciliation. Anybody who doesn't want to have a court battle can resort to arbitration. Hong Kong is touted as a hub for arbitration, and the government is promoting arbitration for the resolution of disputes, but when they are exercising the public power, they reject arbitration. In Chun-wan, there is a factory building. There are some residents who were evicted by a court injunction. They weren't even allowed to go back to retrieve the documents and their supplies of clothing. I think the government should try to resort to arbitration and conciliation instead of resorting to litigation. In Wai-hing building, there are some factory owners who feel aggrieved, and they took the government to court, and they lost millions and millions of legal fees just for the sake of tens of thousands of dollars. They lost everything. So never did I see anybody win in a court battle. Previously, some cases were taken to the Privy Council, and they were also defeated. So for this reason, I like to slash the funding.
I'd like to ask this question. Why don't you rehouse the people first before you resume the land? Because sooner or later, you're going to resume the land anyway. This is abuse of public power. You were talking how bad the colonial government did, but now the sovereignty has been returned for 17 years, and I think you should try to do it better. I therefore have moved these amendments. And then there is another part, Chairman. This has to do with security expenses for the government headquarters. Since this is my last speech on this debate, I must try to get justice for scholarism. I'm talking about Head 142. I am cutting its expenditure by $36.55 million, and that is the security expenses for the headquarters. In 2012-13, 20 million. 2013-14, 29 million, and then 2014-15, $44.98 million. The increases are staggering. This is what C.Y. Leung did after he came to the post, and the increase is over 100%, Chairman. This is what Leung Chun-ying did. He had to have the service of the security guards so he could hold on to his post. And look at the government headquarters. Very often there are more security guards than members of the public. And Civic Square, it was designed in such a way that the door should be always open, but now the door is always closed. This government is autistic. Chairman, I'm talking about your brother, Zhang Tak-sing. I have criticized him for being autistic. I have never spoken to him. He has never contacted me. That happens with some secretaries. Some of them have never contacted us, including Mr. Raymond Chen and myself. I don't know whether they have made any appointment with Leung Kwok-hung, as if we had leprosy. But Chairman, you are more open-minded. But some other secretaries, they are autistic. They only mind their own business. The Civic Square should be open, but it is closed, and therefore you are spending so much more. You spent $2 million on the steel cladding and of the government headquarters building, and you have to put security guards there. You should help the public so they would not be taken ransom and had to pay $28 million for the girl to be saved. No, you only want to protect the of political figures, and the secretaries of department and directors of bureau should not be disturbed when they go in and out of the headquarters of the government. So I have to return some justice to scholarism. And I want to cut the security expenses for the government headquarters. And the yearly allocation is under head 142, $36.55 million. I'd like to mention one last point, Chairman. The administration is blaming the victims. And you also remind me of some Chinese classics in which the people who have power in the families would dictate marriages for the young, and if you want to identify your own partner for life, they would say you don't practice filial piety. And if you have 4 generations in the family, that is what happened, but I don't think we want to see any of that. Members who are moving amendments and those who have not spoken again are not here in the chamber. So that's the end of this debate. And members will know, Mr. Kwok-hung, I have already given you the chance to speak for the last time on this debate. Later on, when we will vote on the other heads with amendments for them to be incorporated into the schedule, there will be another debate. But members, with regard to the heads of expenditure under this debate, if you still want to have views expressed, you can do so in that debate that I mentioned just now. Now we will get to the third debate, and the